November 1994. In the small town of Hebden Bridge, 13-year-old Lindsay Jo Rimer leaves home on a simple errand to buy cereal and never returns. Her disappearance sends shockwaves through the community, a town unprepared for the horror to come. For months, her family clings to hope while police chase sightings of a mysterious red Honda and a shadowy bearded man. But 5 months later, those hopes are shattered. Lindsay's body is discovered submerged in the Rochdale Canal, less than a mile from her front door. A brutal end to a young life, and the beginning of a mystery that still haunts West Yorkshire 3 decades on. Who killed Lindsay Jo Rimer? Welcome to Crimes That Haunt Us. We release a new case every Sunday at 6 p.m, so hit subscribe and don't miss the next one. And let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. On February 17, 1981, in the town of Buxton, Derbyshire, a girl named Lindsay Jo Rimer was born to Geraldine, Jerry, and Gordon Rimer. The third of 4 children, Lindsay, brother Daniel, older sister Kate, and her younger sister Juliet. Industrial closures hit families like the Rimers hard. The Rimers' journey was marked by hardship. In the early 1990s, their pub, the Mill House on Doncaster Road in Rotherham, went bankrupt, a failure Gordon bitterly attributed to the fag end of Thatcherism. The loss fractured the family, leading to a temporary separation. In 1991, Gordon, Lindsay, and Daniel relocated to Lower Rough Head Farm in Hebden Bridge, owned by farmer Bernard Pratt, who Gordon persuaded to allow caravans on the property. Hebden Bridge, nestled in the Calder Valley, was a place of community warmth and low crime rates, its cobbled streets and stone cottages masking the economic decline that gripped northern mill towns in the 1980s and 1990s. Lindsay and Daniel lived in a green-painted caravan, its interior later described as semi-derelict, with stickers still clinging to Lindsay's curtained-off sleeping area. Gordon resided in a separate caravan, while Jerry stayed in Rotherham with Kate, refusing to join them. This unconventional arrangement isolated Lindsay, a bright and social girl who missed her friends and mother. The emotional toll lingered, evident in the family's later reflections on their grief. Brother Daniel, by contrast, thrived in the rural setting, taking on odd jobs for Bernard Pratt like sheep dipping and learning harsh lessons of country life, such as killing foxes to protect livestock. Lindsay, however, felt out of place in the all-male environment. She found solace in small acts, using the farmhouse phone to call friends, though this was rationed to 1 call per night by Bernard, who grew annoyed but wasn't unkind, earning pocket money, cleaning the kitchen, and baking cakes with Bernard's wife Mary. Each day, a taxi carried Lindsay to school, crossing Calais Bridge over the canal and river, past the rusted hulks of barges and dredgers at Calais Mill, a route that would later haunt the investigation. By 1993, the Rimers reconciled, moving into a terraced house on Cambridge Street in Hebden Bridge. Lindsay enrolled at Calder High School, starting in Year 8 and advancing to Year 9 by 1994. Teachers described her as a bright, popular, and conscientious, with strong academic performance and no disciplinary issues. The family, despite their early struggles, was close-knit. Lindsay, nicknamed Safi after the responsible character from Absolutely Fabulous, embodied an organized, reliable spirit. She often stayed over at sister Kate's house nearby, especially as Kate welcomed her first child in 1994. Her passions were music, Nirvana and the Prodigy posters adorned her room, and fashion, funded by a part-time paper round at Four Boys newsagents. On November 5, 1994, Hebden Bridge buzzed with Bonfire Night celebrations near a now-demolished mill factory by the Rochdale Canal. Police would later wonder if Lindsay crossed paths with someone there, though no witnesses confirmed her presence, and rumors of her attendance or being lured added a layer of intrigue to the mystery. The following day, November 6th, a red Honda Civic was stolen in Meanwood, Leeds, 20 miles away. Spotted in Hebden Bridge, it became a pivotal early lead, one that would persist as a local myth for decades, consuming investigative resources and possibly blinding police to other clues. November 7, 1994 began unremarkably with Lindsay attending school after having completed her paper round for Four Boys newsagents. By 7 p.m. that evening, Lindsay was at home on Cambridge Street with her father, Gordon, while Jerry enjoyed a night out at the Trades Club on Holmes Street with a friend. Older sister Kate was at her own home nearby, whilst Daniel and toddler Juliet were also at Cambridge Street. Around 10 p.m., Lindsay realized there were no cornflakes for breakfast and set out for the Spar on Crown Street, less than a mile away. Gordon, engrossed in a phone call from between 9:45 p.m. to 10:20 p.m., did not notice her leave. At 10:10 p.m., Lindsay stopped by the Trades Club, surprising mother Jerry, who asked her, "What are you doing here?" Lindsay then requested money for cornflakes, to which Jerry handed her £1.20 for a small box. When Jerry offered her a Coke, Lindsay declined, and Jerry's last words to her daughter were, "Make sure you go straight home." She wasn't to know that this would be the last time she saw her daughter alive. At 10:20 p.m., Spar CCTV captures Lindsay calmly paying for the cornflakes, carrying only the packet. The shop was a mere 3-minute walk from the Trades Club. Her final confirmed sighting came between 10:40 and 10:45 p.m. when 2 bus passengers saw her leaning against a wall at the base of Crown Street, near the Memorial Garden on New Road. This 15 to 20 minute gap after leaving the Spar remains an enigma, a haunting window where something went terribly wrong. Lindsay never returned home. Jerry and Gordon, assuming she was asleep in her attic bedroom, didn't check. A decision Jerry later described as a regret that made her wish she could turn back the clock. That same night, the stolen red Honda was reported near Cambridge Street and the Spar. Its bearded driver, aged in his 30s to 40s, was seen approaching teenage girls, including Lindsay's friends, who later gave statements to police. The morning of November 8, 1994, shatters the Rimer's world. At 7:30 a.m., Four Boys newsagent John Needler called the Rimers home after Lindsay failed to show up for her paper round, a stark anomaly for the dependable teenager. Gordon, initially hopeful, told the newsagent Lindsay was probably on her way. But when a second call came at 8:15 a.m. confirming she hadn't arrived, dread took hold. At home, the family found her bed unused, the newspaper bag on a chair, and her school money untouched on the kitchen table, proof she never returned. Jerry and Gordon, gripped by panic, alerted West Yorkshire police. Senior detectives Tony Whittle and Graham Sunderland took charge, facing a dilemma. The statistical likelihood of a teenage runaway, 100,000 children and young people go missing annually in the UK, which is about 144 per day, clashed with the Rimers' insistence that Lindsay, happy and cautious, would never flee. Friends and teenagers echoed this, but police, bound by protocol, initially leaned on runaway patterns, frustrating the family. Yet behind the scenes, quietly launching a parallel potential murder inquiry. The first 24 to 48 hours, critical for witnesses or CCTV beyond the Spar, slipped away, leaving Jerry feeling helpless as opportunities faded. Between November 8th and 10th, police urgency surged as the runaway theory faltered. Roadblocks and vehicle checkpoints, rare for Hebden Bridge's quiet streets, targeted suspicious vehicles, especially the red Honda spotted near Lindsay's home and the Spar. Early profiling suggested a local man with canal knowledge, prompting an extraordinary move. Police searched every male resident's home, a resource-heavy tactic driven by the belief the killer was nearby. Meanwhile, the Rimers turned their Cambridge Street home into a command center. Kate, newly a mother and emotionally stretched, led brainstorming sessions with flip charts and maps, tracing Lindsay's route. The community rallied with fierce intensity. Neighbors, Calder High School students, teachers, and Lindsay's friends joined hundreds of volunteers, braving November's biting cold to scour canal towpaths, woodland trails, and the River Calder's banks, dragging nets through murky waters and combing Palace Wood's steep hillsides. The effort reflected Hebden Bridge's shock, its safe reputation unraveling. On November 11, 1994, Hebden Bridge pulsed with urgency as the Calder Valley Search and Rescue Team fanned out across the rugged woods and moorlands near the Rimer family's Cambridge Street home. Volunteers scoured Raglan Water, Mytholm Steeps, Heptonstall Road, Horsehall Road, and the wild expanse of Hardcastle Crags, their hope tempered by dread. Meanwhile, officers from the Police Operational Support Unit combed Calder Homes Park, focusing on the bus shelter near New Road where Lindsay was last spotted leaning against a wall, a fleeting glimpse that haunted investigators. On November 12th, the red Honda was sighted again in Hebden Bridge, cementing its status as the investigation's focal point. Police issued a nationally circulated EFIT of the bearded driver, based on statements from the teenage girls he approached. The same day, the car was abandoned in Sheffield, and a man matching the description fled a Sheffield hotel, fueling suspicion. The lead consumed resources, with appeals broadcast daily, later criticized as tunnel vision that may have sidelined other clues. By November 17th, the Honda was recovered in Sheffield, but the trail went cold, shaping public and police perceptions. From November 1994 to April 1995, the case gripped the nation, amplified by Channel 4's Deadline documentary, a rare spotlight for a missing teenager. Featuring Jerry and Gordon, it drew sympathy but also scrutiny. Gordon's nervous smirk on camera sparked public suspicion, but Jerry defended him vehemently, revealing an emotional wreck masking his grief. Police swiftly cleared the family. Local press fueled paranoia, with headlines swinging between runaway teen and snatched theories. Kate, despite her new motherhood, starred in a televised reconstruction, walking Lindsay's route in a haunting bid to jog memories. Volunteers persisted, but a fatal error emerged. Police searched the canal downstream towards Sowerby Bridge, assuming water flow, missing Rawdon Mill Lock just over a mile upstream. This misstep, later called the investigation's greatest failure, delayed discovery, costing forensic evidence and deepening the Rimers' anguish. The community grew restless, the Rimers' home a hub of maps, notes, and fading hope. On February 25, 1995, a flicker of hope pierced the gloom over Hebden Bridge when a man came forward with tantalizing information, sparking a massive search in the rugged Clough area of Hardcastle Crags. Police deployed a helicopter, its blade slicing through the mist as officers scoured the woodland slopes and valleys for any trace of Lindsay Jo Rimer. The effort consumed precious resources, only for Detective Inspector Graham Sunderland to uncover a bitter truth. The informant was a hoaxer, his claims a cruel fabrication. West Yorkshire police, incensed by this deception, vowed to charge the man for wasting their time. A betrayal that deepened the community's anguish and diverted focus from Lindsay's true fate. On April 11th, another false lead gripped the Lindsay Rimer investigation. A 28-year-old man from Sowerby Bridge claimed he saw Lindsay with an unidentified man shortly before her disappearance on November 7, 1994, sending ripples of hope through the Rimer family and investigators. The assertion prompted intense scrutiny, but it soon unraveled as a fabrication. West Yorkshire police, their resources strained by the futile chase, announced plans to prosecute the man for wasting police time, a second blow in months that left Gordon and Jerry Rimer reeling, their search for answers mired in deception. But April 12, 1995, late morning brought a chilling resolution. At Rawdon Mill Lock, also known as Calais Mill Lock 12, between 1 to 2 miles upstream from Hebden Bridge toward Todmorden, canal workers Charlie Streets and Andy Glover were clearing debris, tires, wood, rubbish during a routine patrol. With 25 years combined experience on the Rochdale Canal, they noticed a greyish object a foot under murky water. Charlie, wearing rubber gloves, couldn't budge it and fetched a grappling hook from Calais Mill. As they lifted it, Andy recognized wispy brown hair matching Lindsay's missing person photo. Shaken, he called police, urging, "Just get here." Within an hour, police erected a screen. Forensic experts and frogmen carefully slid the body, still in water to avoid contamination, into a body bag. Lindsay was found weighted with a 20-pound concrete boulder, secured with knotted ropes, suggesting premeditation and local knowledge. Her jumper arms were tied in a sling fashion, her clothing intact as in the CCTV, with the exact change from the cornflakes in her pocket. The site, near a well-lit but unsecured factory which is now demolished and shadowed by Calais Wood's steep hillside, close to Lindsay's past farm residence. Police quickly posit that it was nearly impossible for the abductor to have the rock and rope at or around the Spar, suggesting Lindsay was bundled onto a narrow boat after leaving the shock, kept there until reaching Rawdon Lock, over a mile west against the canal's flow from Sowerby Bridge to summit past Todmorden. That afternoon, at Royal Halifax Infirmary, Home Office pathologist Professor Mike Green, a veteran of over 10,000 autopsies, including 800 homicides and Peter Sutcliffe's cases, conducted the post-mortem until 9:30 p.m. The cause of death was strangulation, her larynx flattened against her spinal column with congestion across neck muscles, indicating a sudden, forceful attack. No signs of sexual assault were found, suggesting a non-sexual motive, though 5 months in the canal caused severe decomposition, limiting the report's precision. Police withheld details, like the clothing arrangement, possibly a signature known only to the killer, forming the backbone of the murder inquiry. Over the next 2 years, the investigation would be exhaustive. Over 5,000 interviews taken, 1,200 vehicles checked, and hundreds of statements taken. Police profiled the killer as a driver aged 17 to early 20s, possibly known to Lindsay or a recent acquaintance, like a friend's older brother. They theorized she entered a vehicle willingly, with no witnessed struggle, perhaps taken to the nearby mill factory for a liaison, rejected and killed unintentionally. They also looked at the narrowboat hypothesis, suggesting abduction onto a river craft, aligning with the canal's geography and the 20-pound boulder's use. But by December 12th, a heavy silence settled over Hebden Bridge as murder squad detectives, their leads exhausted, admitted defeat 9 months after Lindsay Jo Rimer's body was pulled from the Rochdale Canal. The incident room, once a hive of activity, began shuttering its doors, its walls lined with unanswered questions. The investigation, now reduced to a skeleton crew of a handful of officers, left Gordon, Jerry and their family grappling with a chilling reality. The search for Lindsay's killer was slipping into the shadows, a wound unhealed in a town forever scarred. On February 17, 1996, with what should have been Lindsay Jo Rimer's 15th birthday, became a day of unbearable sorrow as Hebden Bridge mourned her loss. Her funeral unfolded in the solemn embrace of Hebden Bridge Parish Church, where the community gathered to honor the vibrant girl stolen too soon. As two grey Shire horses drew a wagon bearing Lindsay's coffin through the town's cobbled streets, West Yorkshire police halted traffic, a poignant pause for a family, Jerry, Gordon, Kate, Daniel and Juliet, left shattered by an unsolved tragedy. In early 1998, the case joined Operation Enigma, a 1996 national initiative led by the Metropolitan Police to probe 207 unsolved female murders for serial killer links. Lindsay's case, flagged for her age, canal disposal and weighted body, was cross-referenced with Yorkshire and national crimes, but its unique elements, concrete boulder, knotted ropes, found no matches, frustrating investigators. As Operation Enigma scoured unsolved murders, a chilling figure emerged. John Oswin, a 34-year-old Halifax resident just 9 miles from Hebden Bridge. On November 17, 1998, at Leeds Crown Court, he was sentenced to life for a string of vicious sexual assaults on girls aged between 13 to 16 along Halifax Canal towpaths, spanning December 1993 to September 1997. One attack, just mere weeks after Lindsay's November 1994 disappearance, sent alarm bells ringing. West Yorkshire police interrogated Oswin, probing his 1994 movements, but no DNA or witnesses tied him to Hebden Bridge, and he was ultimately cleared. Yet the canal connection gnawed at investigators, some whispering his exclusion might have been too hasty, leaving a shadow of doubt over the case. In the summer of 2002, a grim shadow loomed over Hebden Bridge as John Taylor, a 46-year-old Leeds parcel delivery worker, faced scrutiny. Convicted in July 2002 for the 2000 murder of 16-year-old Leanne Tiernan, Taylor's methods, abducting young women, strangling them, binding with ropes, and concealing bodies in secluded spots, echoed Lindsay's fate with haunting precision. His delivery route occasionally snaked through Calderdale, prompting West Yorkshire police to probe his 1994 whereabouts and interrogate him in prison. Yet no vehicle records, sightings, or forensics linked him to Hebden Bridge. A case review re-examined 5,000 statements, 1,200 vehicle and forensics evidence, including the ropes, but yielded no breakthroughs. The red Honda EFIT was reissued, and canvassing focused on Rawdon Mill Lock, keeping the case alive amid Hebden Bridge's lingering fear. In 2007, a provocative claim shook the Rimer case. Crime writer Wensley Clarkson, in his book The Predator: Portrait of a Serial Killer, alleged Francisco Arce Montes, convicted of the brutal 1996 murder of 13-year-old Caroline Dickinson in a French hotel, was in Yorkshire on November 7, 1994, on a sinister hunting trip. Whilst working as a waiter in London, it is claimed he visited York, Montes' pattern of stalking and attacking teenage girls at night mirroring Lindsay's fate. But Jerry Rimer scoffed at the theory, and police found no evidence, as Clarkson guarded his source, a retired officer, leaving the claim a tantalizing dead end. On November 7, 2014, Kate Rimer, now in her early 40s, spoke on BBC Radio Leeds and Yorkshire Live. Lindsay was my little sister, full of life and dreams. Losing her broke us. Reflecting on the 1994 guilt and reconstruction role, Kate joined a community vigil at St. George's Square, organised by Calder High alumni. On April 12, 2016, the 21st anniversary of Lindsay's body's discovery, Juliet, now an adult, made a video appeal. There will always be a void. I have no memories of her on my own. Everything is from photographs, stories, and the media. It's heartbreaking to watch your family break down every year, knowing there's nothing you can do but be there. Not knowing what happened is the worst part. You walk down the street and wonder, was it them? Do you know something? Answers wouldn't change the hurt, but would bring us closure. That same month, Canadian forensic experts managed to isolate a DNA profile from the undisclosed evidence, a breakthrough after 20 years, akin to genealogical testing successes. Detective Superintendent Simon Atkinson vowed justice, keeping the case open. On November 8, 2016, a glimmer of hope pierced Hebden Bridge's fog as West Yorkshire police arrested a Bradford man with Hebden Bridge ties on suspicion of Lindsay's murder. A meticulous review of witness statements and forensics sparked the move, with officers searching his home, seizing clothing and igniting the Rimer's fragile hopes. Lindsay's mum Jerry told Yorkshire Live, "We're praying this is the breakthrough, but we're scared to hope." Released on bail, the 63-year-old DNA failed to match the recently discovered DNA profile, shattering the family. In March 2017, a new shadow fell over the Lindsay Rimer case. Retired Cleveland police detective John Matthews, now working as a private investigator specializing in cold cases, submitted a chilling report to West Yorkshire police, pointing to Vince Robson, a local who died in 2005, aged 53. Matthews, who had probed the 1989 murder of 18-year-old Tina Bell in Billingham, saw Robson as a compelling suspect due to his deep ties to Hebden Bridge and a dark criminal past. Robson had moved to the town in 1990, a year after Tina's disappearance, and worked as a sound engineer and barman at the Trades Club on Holmes Street, where Jerry Rimer was socializing the night Lindsay vanished on November 7, 1994. Matthews told Teesside Live that Robson and friend Billy Dunlop, a convicted murderer, were among the last seen with Tina Bell in a communal kitchen the night she vanished, both denying knowledge of her fate. 4 years later, Lindsay, a 13-year-old schoolgirl who was last seen at the Trades Club before buying cereal at a corner shop and heading home, disappears. Matthews' blood ran cold at the parallels. Both girls, petite and vibrant, killed and hidden in eerily similar ways. He noted Robson's unsettling knack for befriending both the Bell and Rimer families, calling him the unluckiest man on the planet for his proximity to two such tragedies. Robson's history was grim. Convicted of domestic abuse and questioned in the unsolved murders of Tina Bell and then the 22-year-old Juliet Hogg killed 5 months after Tina, for which Billy Dunlop, his friend, was convicted in 2006 after Julie's mother, Anne Ming, fought to overturn double jeopardy laws. Robson's presence near Jerry that fateful night, his familiarity with the Rochdale Canal near his home, and unverified witness accounts placing him amongst the last to see Lindsay at the Trades Club fueled Matthews' theory that Robson was the killer. West Yorkshire Police, however, led by Detective Chief Inspector Simon Belden, meticulously reviewed the report but found no actionable evidence. Police cautioned against speculation, noting Robson's death precluded further interrogation. But for Gordon and Jerry Rimer, the theory was another tantalizing lead that dissolved into the canal's murky depths, leaving their daughter's killer still at large. On the 25th of April 2017, a flicker of hope pierced the Rimer family's grief as West Yorkshire Police arrested a 68-year-old Bradford retiree suspected of Lindsay's murder. Sparked by a tip-off from the 2016 anniversary appeals, the arrest, announced by Detective Superintendent Simon Atkinson, followed a meticulous re-examination of historical witness statements and fresh details about the man's 1994 movements in Hebden Bridge. Police scoured his home, seizing documents and electronic devices, grilling him about his actions on November 7, 1994, especially near Crown Street or the Rochdale Canal, where a confidential sighting placed him. Described as a local with no criminal record, his DNA was tested against the 2016 profile, but by late 2017, no match was found and he was released. The back-to-back arrests in 2016 and 2017, both crumbling without charges, deepened the Rimer's anguish, each false hope a fresh wound. In 2022, a bold theory emerged in the book The New Millennium Serial Killer. Examining the crimes of Christopher Halliwell, co-authored by retired detective Chris Clark and crime writer Bethan Truman, they point to Christopher Halliwell, a convicted murderer, as a potential suspect in Lindsay Rimer's killing, citing eerie similarities in victimology and methodology. Known for strangling Becky Godden Edwards and stabbing and strangling Sian O'Callaghan, Halliwell targeted petite young women, often using neck compression much like Lindsay's strangulation. Her body, weighted with a 20-pound concrete boulder tied with knotted ropes, mirrored disposal methods in the cases of Melanie Hall and Maria Cristina Requena, murder victims the authors alleged to be victims of Halliwell. The authors proposed Lindsay was abducted near the Spar, bundled onto a narrowboat and held until reaching Rawdon Lock, aligning with Halliwell's known canal and narrowboat connections. Before his incarceration, Halliwell fretted over police probes into allegations involving underage girls, hinting at ties to perhaps Lindsay's murder. Halliwell also had ties to the Yorkshire area. Yet no evidence places him in Hebden Bridge on November 7, 1994. The hypothesis remains speculative, with the authors urging a 2016 DNA profile comparison to Halliwell's. But as of the airing of this documentary, West Yorkshire police have not confirmed such a test or any link, leaving this theory unresolved. On November 7, 2024, Kate and Juliet marked the 30th anniversary with appeals, pleading, "End this now." Detective Chief Inspector James Entwistle targeted accomplices, noting possible vehicle involvement. Crime Watch Live reaffirmed the 10:40 p.m. sighting, and retired Detective Graham Sunderland vowed, "It's a little girl I've never met and yet know really well." On July 11, 2025, a bombshell shattered decades of investigation. The Honda Man, a linchpin lead, was officially ruled out. The driver, his identity closely guarded, had an airtight alibi. He was speaking to a police officer miles from Hebden Bridge when Lindsay vanished. This collapse of a 30-year pursuit left the case more open-ended than ever, forcing detectives to pivot to other theories. No further arrests or DNA matches surfaced as of the airing of this documentary, leaving the mystery unresolved. The Rimer family presses on, their media appeals resonating through Hebden Bridge's cobbled streets, where police spotlight advances in forensics and shifting loyalties as potential solvers. Lindsay's murder lingers as a wound that won't heal, a mystery forever haunting a town transformed by loss. Lindsay Jo Rimer was just 13 years old, a bright, ordinary schoolgirl whose life was cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. Lindsay should have had a chance to grow up, to follow her dreams and to live the long, full life she deserved, but instead her story stands as a haunting reminder of a child's innocence stolen and a community forever scarred. We remember not only the mystery of her murder, but also the precious life of a young girl whose memory deserves dignity, compassion, and truth. Thank you for watching and listening to Lindsay's story. Please feel free to add your own comments, thoughts, and theories down below, and we'll see you next time.